This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you, and this is Another Side of Midnight. Which other side? I don't know. I like some other side, or which other side. In any event, I am here until 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm so glad you could be here. Glad you could be a part of this thing of ours. Coming up this hour is Warrior Weekend with my better half. Or some people, last week somebody says, that lady who was, that lady's my wife. Or as that great Lyle Lovett said, remember that great song, She's No Lady, She's My Wife. Well, she is a lady, she is my wife. And that's coming up, Lynn's Warriors, in this particular hour to let you know what's going on regarding one of the most absolutely, positively forgotten issues, bar none. And I've got to say something also, which is important. Every now and then, I always think to myself, what do you think? Like, I'm thinking, what would you think or what would I think if I was a listener? And sometimes people will talk about John Catsimatidis, and the owner of this incredible monolithic megalopolis called WABC, the Heritage. And sometimes you think to yourself, are they just being gratuitous? Is this because he's the boss? I know what you're thinking. And frankly, I would think it too. But I got to tell you the truth. There's one thing I will tell you is the truth. And that's been my blessing and has gotten me into a lot of problems. Because I tell you the truth. Because anybody who wants to tell you, who wants to know the truth, is a liar. Because the truth hurts. But there are two particular subjects that I never thought anybody would ever be as interested in as he. The first is, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, what I think gets incorrectly called, UFO, weird, paranormal. It drives me crazy. There's nothing paranormal about it. There's nothing odd or crazy. Because he has a very, very legitimate and sincere curiosity as to this. And I never saw this before. Never. TV, anything involving mainstream media, never saw this. And the second is what is happening regarding child predation, and basically everything from child trafficking to, we'll just call it predation. And I'm just going to say that. And I mean that. He has been absolutely fearless in that respect. And you would think to yourself, why wouldn't people want to discuss child trafficking? I have no idea. That blew me away. And by the same token, there's another issue which drives me similar to that somewhat. It's the idea of this world that we live in regarding extraterrestrials. Nobody takes it seriously. I remember one time I was doing a media piece. I'll just leave it at that. And somebody from the from the art department, as it were, came up with something, and I was being very, very serious about the subject of, we didn't call it UAPs then. And somebody drew a little flying saucer, little green men, the guy with the antennae on the head. I'm saying, what is this? And it was almost like a reflexive thing. One time, by the way, years ago, Tucker Carlson, when he was on Fox News, wanted to address extraterrestrials, and somebody there did the same thing. Somebody in the art department had some flying saucer hovering down, looking cartoonish, looking like a joke, like it's crazy. And for some reasons I won't ever understand, humanity has decided that the biggest story in history, let me say that again, that the biggest history in human history belongs somewhere between ghost stories, celebrity gossip, I guess. If you mention unidentified objects in the air, UFOs, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, or the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligent life, and then suddenly the music changes, the lights dim, and somebody plays the theme from some science fiction movie, you'll hear the theremin, and it's spooky, and the host smirks knowingly, and the audience kind of laughs. That's that late night stuff. That's that Art Bell stuff. Put it on late at night. Why? I mean, I'm glad to be here, but why? But think about what we're actually talking about. If there is even the slightest possibility that intelligent life exists somewhere else in the universe, then nothing else comes close in importance. Not politics, not elections, not stock markets, not sports championships, the World Cup, not even wars. Nothing. Everything changes. Because for thousands of years, human beings looked into the sky. It's a part of who we are. And the night sky, and wondered if we were alone. And then people saw things and have seen things. Every civilization asked the same question. The ancient world asked it, philosophers asked it, scientists asked it, children still ask it today. Are we alone? And even the subject of that has become rather trite. Even that has become, oh, well, there's that question again. And that may be the oldest question our species has ever asked. Because it is so hardwired. It is so hardwired. If you ever see a baby develop, you ever look at how their parietal lobe kicks in, the notions of presence and spatial placement. That's the oldest question our species has ever asked. Now, imagine the answer is no. And it is no, by the way. Imagine that somewhere beyond Earth, whether we call it a civilization, a star system, whatever, assume another civilization exists and has existed. And imagine that intelligence, technology, consciousness all developed somewhere other than here. Millions, perhaps billions of years earlier. And suddenly, humanity is no longer the center of gravity, no longer the center of the story. And we become one chapter in a much larger book. And that realization alone would change religion, philosophy, science, history. Our maps would change. Our understanding of ourselves would change. Even the word humanity would seem almost anachronistic. It would take on a completely different meaning. Humanity, human, we would be speciesist, not a racist, but a speciesist. And yet, listen to how we discuss it. We have somehow trained ourselves to react with nervous laughter. And the subject is pushed to the edge of serious conversation. I don't know why, but it is. As though curiosity itself is embarrassing, as though you have to ask permission. Is this okay to be talking about this? Don't worry, talk about it later. Talk about it late at night. Why? Well, Art Bell. Art Bell. People say, God bless Art Bell. I curse Art Bell because Art Bell made it sound like we only talk about this when the kids are asleep. Proper proper company. Not now. This isn't legitimate. Just wait. Talk about that later. This is the most important issue there is. I hear people talk about this. I'm going to say this right now. This stupid World Cup. I don't care about it. I couldn't. Who won last year? I don't know. Listen, bread and circuses, you knock yourself out. But compared to this, if somebody says they are interested in unidentified aerial phenomena, people still picture, of course, they still say this little green men, tin foil hats. It's actually aluminum foil hats. Late night radio callers reporting lights over the desert. That's nice. And that's important. Now, why is this important? Why is this critical? Because for decades, popular culture wrapped the entire subject in a layer of ridicule. And you can hear it here. You will hear it in very big, I don't think there's any evidence for all this. I think it's all garbage. Who are you? It's just garbage. Really? Sure. Garbage. Well, what is the basis for this? I don't know. It's just garbage. It is absurd. The easiest way to make people ignore something is not to ban discussion. It's to make discussion socially expensive. Make people afraid of being laughed at, and they will silence themselves. It's self-restraint. It's a chilling effect. Scientists worry about their reputations. Pilots worry about their careers. It is absolutely serious. Military personnel worry about being dismissed. Ordinary citizens worry about sounding foolish. So the most important question ever asked becomes the least respectable subject at the dinner table. And that should bother us a lot, a whole lot, very, very seriously. Let me explain something to you. I'm going to make this very, very clear. Curiosity is not irrational. Questions, no matter what, are not dangerous. Investigation is not insanity. If experienced military pilots and commercial pilots report seeing objects that they cannot explain, that deserves attention. And if advanced sensors detect things that remain unidentified, that deserves investigation. Unidentified doesn't mean extraterrestrial. It simply means unidentified. Science begins with this thing called mystery. Science, from the Latin sciens, knowledge, and law, scienter, knowledge. Did you know what you were doing? And science also begins with somebody saying, what exactly was that? What is that? Every major discovery in history, every major discovery began with questions that sounded strange before they sounded obvious. The earth moves around the sun. Invisible germs cause disease. Continents drift. Space and time bend. At one point, all of these ideas sounded ludicrous, ridiculous. Remember Ignaz Semmelweis, who suggested, why don't we wash our hands? Might be a good idea before we deliver babies to wash our hands. Perhaps every unexplained event, everything, eventually receives an ordinary explanation. Maybe advanced technology from human adversaries explains some reports. Who knows? Perhaps atmospheric conditions explain others. Maybe equipment errors explain still more. Or there's something there. All I know is this. We are told from the beginning to mock at this, to laugh at this, to mock this. And instead of investigating, it's incredible. To ask why. Let me give you an example of something, and I don't want to bring politics too much into this, but sometimes there's a perfect analogy. This past week, we had an election, and I have never heard any more inane, insipid, vacuous, void, vacant, stupid, absolutely mind-bogglingly stupid conversations as to what happened. What's with this? And I'm thinking, even the subject of elections is relegated to people who spout the word communism. It's like, is that what you believe this is about? So if people don't understand an election that has been staring us down for I don't know how long, how do you explain anybody all of a sudden to say, yes, but when it comes to matters beyond the terrestrial, that I will be able to glean? I think there's something wrong with us. I think it might be because of maybe perhaps the education system. Maybe we haven't learned how to think. Maybe we've never learned critical thinking. I don't know. I'm not sure. But we're going to get to it. And coming up, we're going to talk about probably one of the most existential concerns to everybody, parents, grandparents alike, is the predation of children. With Lynn's Warriors coming up. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Alrighty, Lionel with you in that music, in tones and presages. This weekly feature of ours, I think is probably one of, if not the most important part. It's Warrior Weekend with my beloved, my wife, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org. You know, artificial intelligence, we're hearing about this to the point where we're kind of like tuning it out. We're habituating to it, AI, it's like a mantra. But this is advancing at a speed that isn't even a speed. It's just here. And we're told it's inevitable and that it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous and that we should just adapt to it. But something unexpected is happening. Parents are asking questions and schools are reconsidering how AI should be used in classrooms. And lawmakers in particular are demanding accountability. And even technology leaders are acknowledging that safeguards are necessary. And this isn't a backlash against innovation. It's humanity pushing back against the idea that technology should replace human relationships in childhood. Oh, no. Supplement is one thing. So Lynn's Warriors believes that AI should enhance lives, not define them. Technology should serve families, augment, supplement, not the other way around. And most importantly, children deserve protection before profits. Today, we're discussing why people are beginning to draw healthy boundaries around AI. And I bring to the microphones here, my beloved Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors. Welcome, wifey. Welcome once again.
Good morning, husband. Thank you. I can't say it enough because you allowing me to come on the platform and share this information, which I know media does not share for the most part with the public, and also to John Katzmatidis and the Cats Roundtable every Sunday morning, allowing me to share and talk about things that are so important to, all of our warriors out there. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So this week was very, very big. I'm going to pretend like I don't know what's happening, but you having been to Washington, what is going on? The first question is, do you believe that humanity, and it's a very kind of a grandiose term, but humanity is beginning to push back against AI? And what is the evidence of such?
There is a tremendous pushback simmering underneath. The public needs to know about this because we at the Warriors talk to people all over the country, and they don't know each other. Like, they don't know everybody's doing this unless we connect them. That is part of our work at the Warriors, right? Because our tagline is community creates change. So if you're out in California or Washington State, and we're here in New York, or Connecticut, New Jersey, we're bringing everybody together. But people are realizing, okay, that this artificial intelligence, this AI, right, again, thrust upon everybody, it affects far more than what you might hear in the media, such as, job loss or taking over the world and all that stuff. Now, as you pointed out, we at the Warriors, we are pro-innovation, pro-technology. It is here to stay. We're not trying to fight, against any of that, but we want it to be, safe for our kids. We want it to work for our kids and our families. We don't want to work for it. So we know that people have been waking up, parents, teachers in schools, business owners, even our lawmakers down in Washington. I had extensive talks this past week. It influences this AI education. They know this now. There's enough out there. We're researching, we're spreading the word about what's happening in the schools, okay? Relationships right in your own home, kids with parents. How is this AI affecting that? Mental health. We have so many studies now that we have learned, about childhood development from the birth, really, of the internet in 1996 to now. So we've got 30 years, Lionel, like under our belt of different studies, of different educators coming out, different psychiatrists, different parents, kids themselves, the harms. So now parents are asking whether innovation is moving too fast, but even more than that, because we all know it is moving too fast, but where are the safeguards? Because right now, big tech, no regulation. This is what we fight for all the time. They have no responsibility, no accountability. So now AI comes along, and they are demanding, safeguards designed to protect children. And this is what's going on. And you know what? I want to point out that last Sunday on Father's Day, John Katzmatidis, WABC Radio, ran a full-page ad in the New York Post calling out something I think nobody talked about, but us basically, that 44 state attorneys generals sent a letter, hardcore letter, to big tech CEOs, all of them, Meta with Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman with OpenAI, a whole slew of them, and 44 bipartisan, okay, Democrats, Republicans, they said, AI, if you're coming for the kids and you harm them, we are coming for you. And that is a remarkable thing. 44 state attorneys general. And you know what? That bides well, because before you know it, the holiday season will be here, and the toy makers are going to unleash a slew of toys, everybody, filled with AI, the teddy bears, the gaming, further isolation when this child's bonding with a toy that will talk back to them, tell them everything they want to hear, as opposed to their parent or their sibling or a friend. So, it is good. I say it's good right now. There's a lot of hope, and more people are, becoming educated, spreading the word.
May I add something? Just a moment, which I think was very, very interesting. Again, not to bring, it sounds silly not to bring politics into it, because politics is front and center. But in New York, in the race regarding to the replacement of Jerry Nadler, there were two candidates who came in first and second who, and I don't think people caught this, who made as a very critical point, a platform of their candidacy, AI and protections regarding children. And what I'm seeing, and you and I, of course, talk about it all the time, is that you are seeing, and I'm using these terrible terms, left and right, and people of all ages and races and denominations and political inclinations recognizing this. This is going to be the signature issue that is going to transcend politics. Would you agree?
I would agree tremendously. Look, we saw it, and nobody really picked up too much on it with District 12 right here in New York, right, New York City. So both candidates, the candidate that won and Alex Boris, candidate number 2, who obviously did not win but didn't lose by that much. Both candidates, let's start with Alex Boris. He does come from Palantir. He does come from a whole tech, he's a tech guy, background, Silicon Valley. But he ran on the platform of, he's a young father and family and AI and how it will affect kids and families. And absolutely, it's out there on record. OpenAI themselves, they came after him. They put it out in print. They did interviews. They said, we're going to defeat him. We're going to, smash him into the ground. These are the words they used. And they said, we are not going to let anything affect any of our AI. And they spent millions and millions against him. Now, just hold that thought for a second. Mm-hmm. Now, the person who won, Lasher, his platform was also against all this AI, unleashing it. And he won. And again, Alex Boris, just by a few points, right? So here's the thing about this story that nobody's picking up on. It's not what big tech, these CEOs, thought would happen. They thought the public would just blindly accept all of this, like we did when we were thrust into, 30 years ago when it started with MySpace, and then it became Facebook, and then everybody's on TikTok, and everybody's on Instagram, and we just kind of got brainwashed and went along with it. But again, now 30 years later, we have a lot of history, we have a lot of studies stats telling us the harms caused, to children especially, and they can't believe these big tech CEO guys. I'm going to say guys because it's really like a handful of 5 guys controlling everything, that this is the backlash, that it's happening, that even their hundreds of millions of dollars to stop an Alex Boris. Now, granted, he did not win, but very close, and also the candidate last year who did win, also against this AI. And they're just scratching their heads thinking, wow, we thought this would automatically, we would win again like we did with social media. People have been awakened in America, and they're like, no more. We're going to push back. And I think this is great news. We're questioning more.
We're talking to Lynn Shaw from lynswarriors.org, on YouTube at Lynn's Warriors, and on X at Lynn's_Warriors. This week on your YouTube channel on Lynn's Warriors, you talked to the not the longest tenured congressman in New Jersey. He was talking about this. Everybody is talking about this. You were talking this week to members of the White House, Washington, think tanks, groups. It is not what people think. It's not this notion of AI being Chat GPT. That's not it. I think we need to get into a definitional problem. Now, what roles do schools play in all of this, if anything?
Listen, first of all, we have to talk about kids go to school, right? Whether you're homeschooled, but the majority of kids in America go to a school. Right now, it's a pivotal moment. I truly believe, and many of my fellow, ethical technologists and people in Washington, we believe in America right now, this is a point of change. It'll go down in history with all of the technology, the AI, everything seems to be chaotic, right, if you really look at it and break it down. But schools right now have this tremendous opportunity to teach responsible AI. Let's call it AI literacy, okay? Because what we have to do with kids, remember everybody, let's go back, developing brains. The different studies, the brain's not really developed until age 25, 26. We have to preserve, critical thinking, critical analysis, creativity, independent learning, no matter where you go to school, okay? And so we know right now from our national report cards that in all 50 states, kids are failing. The highest score is one state, it's like Ohio, 32% for science. Kids are up to par. That is shocking, Lionel. The kids are failing, okay? We have all these studies now. We're talking all 50 states. So right now, this is this moment in history where AI should be a classroom tool, not a replacement for the teachers, okay? Not a replacement for the creativity, the curiosity, the imagination, but it can implement. And we're seeing such tremendous, seeing in the last year, okay? Many of the schools across the country opting out of phones. Great thing. And people push back and say, oh, yeah, great, but that's not like 24 hours a day. We'll take the 6-7 hours a day kids are in school.
And in California, even in California as well, they're doing this. It's not where you think.
It's all over the country. This is why media needs to spread the word so more will jump on board and know, we're not alone. We're doing this too. But having those phones out of the classrooms for 6-7 hours a day, again, the kids are focused not only on their academics, right? They are focused on relationships with their peers. So instead of the 4 kids at the lunch table or in the playground all on their devices, phones, when they're standing next to each other, which we see all the time, right? Walking down the street here in New York, there are 4 of them, and they'll all be on the phone, texting at the same time, not talking to each other. You see it all over the place, right? You see even people out to dinner, the kids are all on the devices, even though they're all sitting next to each other. But so we've gotten the phones out of the classrooms, and now we do have the studies that say academically better, attention spans better. But now the pushback, we have something called Chromebooks in the public school system in America, government issued. Okay, we learned all this during that COVID period when the kids were forced to learn at home, or we thought they were learning, right? Because that was a tremendous setback for children academically, but we learned. That is the good thing about that whole horrible period. We learned about kids schooling online, what they're doing. So these Chromebooks now, which, by the way, our government distributed to millions of children without putting any safety features on, which they could have turned on all kinds of safety features that come with the Chromebooks, but they blindly just distribute it across the country. And that's where parents and caregivers saw their kids were supposed to be at home during this COVID period, doing math. Mom walks in the kitchen to stir the soup or whatever she's doing. She comes back out, and little Johnny's watching pornography, and it's supposed to be his math lesson. That's where all these parents started coming forward, fighting back, what's going on here. But the Chromebooks now, and Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania just announced, we're taking all these Chromebooks out of the classrooms by early 2027. Not only that, Josh Shapiro also said, we're going to have mandatory cursive writing, music to my ears, cursive writing back in the classrooms. Because you know what, Lionel? I've said this to you for years, and I learned this from the nuns in Catholic school, but it sticks with me decades later. When I write something down, I physically write it, I remember it better, right? So now we have studies that say if kids actually write, they remember it better. So we're getting these Chromebooks out of the classrooms. We're going back to cursive writing. We're going back to a tremendous movement started by parents called pencil to paper, where we're not going to have these devices. A lot of schools will still tell you, we only do it online. Your child has to be on the Chromebook, or your child has to have their own laptop. Well, you know what? You absolutely don't have to have that. You can ask for a textbook, everybody. You can also ask for a package of papers. That's the title, pencil to paper, where your assignments for the week. Like we used to get those sheets in school, printed out with the math assignments and all that stuff. You can get this package of papers. And so you can get your textbook, you can get your package of papers or assignments for the week. And you know what? Other kids, we have reports, are saying, this is kind of cool. I want a textbook too. I want a package of papers to do my assignments. I don't want to be online. So that's what we at the Warriors, we spend a tremendous amount of time, encouraging all of this behavior, spreading the word about this behavior, spreading the resources, where to go, the website. All of this is free. How a parent or caregiver or a grandparent, because there's a lot of grandparents today raising kids or really involved in children's lives, where you go to start all of this and where you have your like-minded people. So you're not alone. Because one thing people tell me all the time, I don't know anybody else was doing this, or I feel like odd man out or something. So I think this is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. I want to share one other thing. There is a class action lawsuit right now. There is a program in American public schools, called iReady. And iReady is something most classrooms are using. Is
that the letter I or EYE?
No, it's just a small I. So it's like I and then capital R, iReady. So most parents at the beginning of the school year, they'll get a sheet, right? The kids come with the backpacks and a million sheets they put on the table for you to sign. And parents are, again, blindly checking off, yes, my son or daughter can use a Chromebook. Yes, they could be on Google. Yeah, blah. Because I talk to parents. And they'll always say, I don't know, I checked off 30 things. Well, you've got to do better, everybody. Parent up. You can't just blindly check off what's allowed in the classroom, because this program, iReady, which parents have checked the box for at the beginning of the school year, they now, we have found out, are taking all of your child's information, right? Because they're tracking their learning within the classroom. And they're sharing it with these, you're a lawyer, third party, unbeknownst to the parents or something, sharing the data, the information. So right now there's a tremendous, it's brand new, this class action lawsuit. You cannot take our children's information, even though we sign, check the box for iReady in the classroom, right? It's tracking their spelling, their math, their this. It seems, remember the days there was a program we had different colored cards or something in the classroom.
SRA.
Level. But this is the same sort of thing, but again, it's online. But then what did they do? This iReady, they turned around and they're selling it to who knows what. Well, we do know everything's going into that big mishmash, AI in these data centers, right, to scrape the internet eventually when people go on ChatGPT and all these other sites. So you know what? iReady. So get into your classrooms. Understand this is a time for you to talk to the teachers, talk to the principal, talk to your children. That's where it starts. And listen to what we have to say at Lynn's Warriors, because we really know we hear so many things before the public hears them.
And there's also something people don't understand. When you talk about, there are many dimensions to these fears. First of all, there's the idea of kids using screens too long. When a child should not have, you know the expression trying to drink from a fire hose. When a child turns on a game And all of a sudden, the child is inundated with colors and noise and blast and flash. It mesmerizes the child. And the child does not learn to track. It doesn't learn how to follow. It's just bombarded, assailed by this. Later on, that makes the ability to read even more difficult because they never learned tracking. The number of kids who go through their life never working on their hand movement, proprioception, being able to throw a ball, being able to figure distance, and they just don't do this because they're too busy holding their thumbs are very good. Oh my God, their thumbs are so acrobatic. So what we're doing is, and I want people to understand, I'm not old-fashioned for the sake of being old-fashioned. You mentioned cursive writing. The idea, do you know that when you write a letter, followed by another letter, followed by another letter, versus cursive, which connects words, it changes the way we process.
Yes.
It's not merely, this isn't just cutesy stuff, but this is so critical. We'll talk about this later, but what it does is it requires motor coordination, memory, sequencing, and visual processing all simultaneously. This is not, again, we're not going to go back to quill pens and the minuet. This was important. This was critical. And what happens is people think, we don't need that anymore. And more and more. Have you ever seen people hold, you being a child of Catholic school, have you ever seen somebody hold a pen today? It's like they're holding a stick or I don't know what, a crowbar. The pen, the implement, they've never used it. They don't even know what to do. And there's no way that can be healthy. So I just want people to say, your message, Lynn's Warriors, is not going back to the 19th century, but going back to those fundamental abilities and characteristics and talents that people need throughout their life.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. But I want to...
As well you should.
I want to. Well, sometimes we don't, but it does create lively debate in the household. But anyway.
Indeed.
We have to talk about what's going on in Washington a little bit to give flavor so people understand.
Please do.
And the responsibility of big tech. Because in all this conversation, what is the responsibility of big tech, right? Let's talk about, should they have responsibility, a greater responsibility? Yes, yes, and yes, okay? Product design. These big tech companies should prioritize child safety. I don't understand what is so hard about this. From the beginning, putting out a product to the best of their ability. It's not asking a lot, right? To the best of their ability, enacts child safety. Now, listen, people push back. Well, it's up to the parents. Oh, yeah, there are safety features. When you make it so difficult, when you have an iPhone that has 31 steps to put on a safety feature, I'm telling you that because the parents contact me by step 10, Lynn, we're exhausted. We hand our child the phone and say, just be safe. They do that on purpose because we have plenty of whistleblowers who have come forward, okay? And they have told us this, what goes on at these big tech companies. Again, a reminder, it is incredible. There is no regulation. It's like, if you eat food or something and you get poisoned, we have all these food recalls or medicine recalls. And I'm always saying to you, my God, we have the bicycle helmets and the seat belts, and now we got booster seats. But after the car seat, you need a booster seat, and you got to do this, that. But there's nothing. It's opening up the world, these devices, handing them to children, right? It's the world at their fingertips. So big tech, this is a line in the sand right now because we've been working, as you know, 22 hours a day, no exaggeration, in tandem with Washington because it's going down right now. We've got hundreds and hundreds of parents we were with this past week on Capitol Hill. We've got them now who are angry and upset because we had a piece of legislation called Kids Online Safety Act, Senate version 1748, which I have to throw in the bill number because the House has put out a version called the Kids Act, and they've erased our Senate version 1748 by the great Senator Marsha Blackburn, and Senator Richard Blumenthal, bipartisan everybody, and they've watered it down, and they took out the most important three little words, duty of care. Big tech, you have duty of care to put out your product with reasonable safeguards. So the House took that, lumped our Kids Online Safety Act in with all these other pieces of legislation. They're going to jam this down everybody's throats, and they're going to say on Capitol Hill, hooray, we've got a child safety package, and the public thinks you hear child safety. okay, this is good. They've done something. Check the boxes. Check the boxes. There is tremendous pushback. We want our Kids Online Safety Act, Senate Version 1748, to stand alone. I would love our president to do an executive order, put out with duty of care. 3 little words. We have to keep our kids safe. Because, again, we're talking about artificial intelligence tonight. This thing is going so
very,
fast.
very quickly, though. Okay, but a couple of things just sped by here. Number one, we're talking to Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube, and Lynn's_Warriors on X. Number one, let's slow this down a little bit. There is an issue that came up this past week, and it is about preemption. Now, most people don't know this. And you can take, by the way, all of cable news and just chuck it because they are beholden to the very people who are responsible for big tech. This is my opinion now. So you're not going to hear anybody delve into this. The notion of preemption, meaning every state should be able to say, under the notion of states' rights, what they consider to be acceptable or not. But what this legislation now is, they're saying, we'll go ahead and we'll pay lip service to this notion called child protection, but we're going to remove states' rights and we're going to preempt it, meaning there will be one standard determined at the federal level, and that's it. Now, those civil libertarians and those hardcore conservatives who talk about states' rights, they don't know anything about this. They've never heard about this. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned standard of care. If there's no teeth, just like a contract that doesn't have any responsibility, it's illusory. Imagine having a piece of legislation that doesn't provide any groundwork and anything. Just because it's passed doesn't mean it's effective. And tell everybody what happens when you will get a piece of and I've heard this. You get a piece of legislation. Your colleagues will then refer to their legal teams. They'll pour through this and they'll say, this doesn't say anything. Or they remove something. There's hundreds of pages and thousands of words, and one little section that eliminates something can invalidate it. Explain a little bit about that, how you feel like, great, we have this terrific piece of legislation called Protect the Children Act, when in fact it says nothing.
Yeah, and we come up against this all the time, but what's happening right now with the Kids Online Safety Act is unprecedented, okay? And that is, I am a little more blatant than your description because I call what they're putting out there, the House, a piece of toilet paper, okay? It is a roll of toilet paper. I was in an office the other day, and they're like, well, you can't say that. I'm like, why not? Because that's exactly what it is. When we get these lawyers involved to break it down, and, you know, you get both sides, and it's just pages and pages of nonsense that equals zero, okay? And so they do this constantly, but it's called running the clock, you know, on Capitol Hill. Don't run it to the last minute so they can jam this through at the last minute. Remember, Congress is going, you know, they go on their summer break soon, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody should continue working. We have a lot of issues going on in America. You know, maybe take a weekend or a 4-day weekend, but please, we got a lot going on. When you have hundreds of parents on Capitol Hill crying for their dead children who've been harmed by sextortion, buying drugs, you know, easily 2 clicks on Snapchat. That's the truth, everybody. Cyberbullying. You're feeding these dangerous algorithms to teen girls, okay, how to starve yourself to death. Subway surfing, which we've always had, let's face it, in the big cities, especially here in New York. You always heard about it my whole life, but not to the extent of TikTok promoting videos. Go out there, film it. You'll get clicks, likes. We'll put you on this platform, and kids are dying, okay? They have a responsibility. So now we've got to have the government do something, okay? This is not about freedom of speech. This is about they have a responsibility. There is more money, tech, on Capitol Hill. Josh Hawley gave a terrific speech the other day. He is, you know, he's my pick. He's still, you know, he's 47 years old. He's all invested with the child safety. You're going to be hearing a lot of great things from him. He has something called the GUARD Act, but he directed everything towards parents and families.
Let me do
everybody
this.
Everybody else is kind of using the kids for getting these bills with thousands of pages that mean nothing. Again, the toilet paper.
As you know, the clock is my enemy.
Oh, no.
In closing, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, what is the takeaway which you want everybody to understand and to remember?
I want everyone to understand AI can assist people, but it cannot replace parents or teachers or grandparents, mentors or friends. Children need to develop empathy, resilience, confidence through human beings, human relationships, not these algorithms online. And there's a lot of hope because families are more engaged. Schools are having more meaningful conversations. And you know what? Researchers, lawmakers, and technology leaders are recognizing child safety must remain at the top.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors, lynswarriors.org. Thank you, my darling. This was this week's installment of Warrior Weekend. We will talk to you again next week. I'll see you sooner than that. Thank you so very
Lionel.
much. And coming up on another side of midnight, I want to mention a little bit about, and I mentioned this critical idea about cementing new circuitry in the brain through cursive writing. This is Lionel with you on another side of midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This sounds like a hyped up version of Take the Money and Run by Steve Miller Band. Oh, this is Tower of Power. Bump City. 800-848-9222. Lionel with you. Let me mention a little something, if I could, about cursive writing. This is why it's very, very critical for me to. I am not somebody who believes in this notion of, hey, let's just go back and do things the way they were. No. Sometimes Stephen Stills may have said old times, good times, but not necessarily. But cursive writing is still critical because of what it does. Not because it's old-fashioned or nostalgic, but it activates parts of the brain, especially for developing children, that typing and printing does not. Writing in cursive requires, and this is critical, a new motor coordination, new memory, sequencing, visual processing, all at the same time, simultaneously, concomitantly. And studies have found that handwriting strengthens learning, improves retention, but when you have to write fluidly, when you don't stop and start, it changes the way you process things. There are people who cannot read historical documents. Do you know that there are kids in grade school? I've got a friend of mine who's a elementary school teacher. The number of kids who cannot read an analog clock. Let me say that again. Remember when you were kids, the big hands on the 12 and the little hands on the 3? I can remember I didn't understand what that meant. When they first gave me the idea of the clock, I didn't get it. Now, I have to use analog and digital, depending upon what I'm doing. If you're in the radio biz, if you're in the audio biz or the technical biz, and you have a countdown, and you have this thing called a hard out, if they say be out by 58:30, that means 58:30, not 29, not 31. So you've got to watch that. And you've got to figure out, now, how do I say stuff and stop exactly at 58 past the hour and 30 seconds? You might need an analog clock. Watching the second hand may be better for you. I don't know. But it's the idea of time. It's not a number that means nothing. It's sequencing. And there are things that we did as kids that we thought were kind of just stupid. Didn't really matter. They were absolutely critical. Let me say something right now. It should be, and I don't really believe in mandatory much of anything, perhaps, but certain things. But I might make an exception with teaching a child an instrument. Find out what your kid, I hope, pray to God it's not drums. Rhythm is good. A tuba, something like that. But preferably a harmonica, maybe, or maybe a guitar, something easy, portable. But music changes everything. Your ability to mathematically also bifurcate your world into left and right hand, and being able to either to take something out of nothing and to create a sound and punctuate nothing with rhythm and timing and notes and knowing sevenths and fifths and major sevenths, it's absolutely, positively critical. We have more coming up on another side of midnight. Hour number 2 quickly approaches. 800-848-9222. More coming up with me, Lionel.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. Our number is 800-848-9222, and this is Another Side of Midnight. So good to see our good friend Kevin Drosch at the board. Kevin is from a witness protection program out of Secaucus, and basically owned a small engine repair service one time years ago in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He was a very interesting background. He was a pearl diver from Yuma, to use that great George Carlin joke, and he owned a chain of tall and big men shop in Beijing. His parents, he has a tremendous lineage. His grandfather, by the way, was lookout at Pearl Harbor, so he has quite the provenance. Let me just tell you something. Also, our man at the helm, Jackson, insists upon writing all caller information in cuneiform, which is fascinating as well. In any event, we'll be here until 5 a.m. I want to reiterate two things, which is just, I'm enraged by this. I don't know if I was born perhaps maybe on another planet, another time, another dimension, but to me, the most fascinating subject, bar none, is the idea of other life forms, intelligent life forms, coexisting in the universe next to us. And that's not considered weird or out there or outer space or Star Trekky. It's the most fascinating subject of mankind. Yet you'd never know it by talking to a lot of people who think, oh God, because we have destroyed that. And you know why? Through this idea called the limited hangout. You have been inoculated against the subject. Why? You know how vaccines work sometimes? They take a dead virus and they will introduce it. These are classic, not mRNA vaccines, but classic vaccines. They take a dead virus and then, or whatever the particular, I guess they could do bacteria as well, but normally a virus. They introduce it into you. Your body sees this. It doesn't know it's dead, doesn't know it's inactive or inert, but it starts to develop antibodies. And basically, you develop a resistance against that forever by tricking, so to speak, your body into thinking that it's been exposed to this particular pathogen or what have you. By virtue of an old intel procedure called limited hangout, you're given these constant little hors d'oeuvres and amuse-bouche, this little tiny, oh, look, this week we're going to release UAP information. Look, we're on the verge of having such and such. I'm not going to mention which cable news, but they talk about it all the time and nothing's released. Look at the Epstein files. Nothing. There's no, but remember President Trump, I think he was sincere. I think he wanted to do something. We're going to reveal and release information on the JFK assassination. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You have been inoculated. You have been vaccinated. Your intellectual immune system, you think it's been released because they're talking about it. No, they haven't released anything. They're talking about releasing it. That's the limited hangout. This little bit of information. And by the way, I love speaking with you. And the best part about it is that the fact that I've got a long swath, a long stretch to be able to talk. And I loved, and I think most of us love the idea of, Art Bell. But Art Bell, my only beef is that he gave people the impression that this type of talk is not for polite company during the day. We talk about adult things. We don't talk about this crazy flying saucer stuff. That's at night. That's for the crazy people who are up late. And people think that. They do. Because of this connection that we have to him. Well, I've got news for you. It is the biggest story, period. There is nothing. There is absolutely Nothing. Just imagine, just for 1 second, forget AI. What if, and I'm just saying this, but what if there was contact that was made? And let's assume that you were talking to a living, perhaps breathing or respiring, suspirating version of humanity that's even better than AI. What if somebody from another time and dimension said, cancer, we had that. We know what that is. You're looking at it completely differently. And I ask the real question, the question nobody wants to answer. Do you believe there are some forms of cancer that we could have cured or are able to be cured, but the billions of dollars that would have been lost precludes a more of a, shall we say, an aggressive, accelerated form of cure? Do you think within the vaults of certain companies there might be information that leads to a cure? Do you think so? That are being withheld? If they cured cancer, do you know what happened to the economy? Do you have any idea? Are you kidding me? Now, am I being cynical? Not at all. I'm calling it exactly the way it is. So let's go to the phones, my friend. Always your thoughts, your comments. By the way, they are so fascinating. All I ask you is that you remain courteous, try to remain cogent as much as possible, and think before you speak. Let's go to Tom in New Jersey. Tom, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
About
Any day now.
You were talking about cursive writing. So I have a short story about cursive writing and reading, and in my experience.
Yes, sir.
The teachers in school couldn't teach me how to do cursive. You remember over the chalkboard, you had the alphabet. You had on the top, it was capital letters, and then on the bottom, it was cursive letters. So
or lowercase.
Yeah. So when I tried to learn, when the teacher tried to teach me how to learn how to do cursive, just say for the word cat, I would do it just like it was on, over the board.
Right.
The letters were not connected. So my stepmother taught me how to connect the letters. Now for reading, the teachers couldn't teach me how to read. So my stepmother, she taught me how to read, and it was very simple. You just break the words down into syllables, and doing that over and over, I learned. And I'll tell you one thing, out of all the gifts I ever had in my life, those were the two best gifts I ever had given to me, without a bow, the best ever.
Do you know that they believe, it has been said, that reading is one of the most unnatural things that human beings do? That the fact that we can read at all is incredible, because you're looking at something, you're looking at what amounts to be squiggles or blocks, and you're looking at it. And then you look at that and you recognize. Remember, there's recall and recognition. But you look and you go, that's that C letter. That's the cat word. Got it.
Yeah.
When you read today, you don't even say the words. You recognize it. In fact,
like
what AI is,
It's like breathing.
Yes.
People that know
right.
how.
Exactly. Right. But what I'm saying is, what AI is doing is it's trying to, this is called LLM, the learning mechanisms, learn language, is it tries to anticipate what the next word is. Do you know that when you're reading, you can almost, when a preposition is coming, when you just know this after a period of time, but that only comes through reading. And the only way to learn these things is to read. Now, by the way, the idea of cursive is wonderful too, because it's fluid. You don't stop. You have to connect. As you said, you wrote the letters individually. You wrote them. See, and by the way, I thank you so much for your call, Tom. Thank you. Please call me again. I remember one time thinking of the hardest thing for me when I was a kid was fractions. I didn't understand it. Didn't make any sense to me. And then one day I said, oh, okay. I don't know why. There was something about language, though, that was interesting. When I was a kid, I forget how much older he was, but my cousin was in college, and he was pledging Sigma Phi Epsilon. And I walked in one day, and he's got this match, and he's mumbling something. I said, what the heck is wrong with Joey here? So I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm pledging a fraternity. I said, what does that mean? Well, I'm trying to join. I said, okay, well, what are you doing? He said, I have to be able to recite the Greek alphabet in time and to light a match, a regular, a paper match. I don't even have books of matches anymore. But anyway, I said, why do you have to do that? He said, well, it's part of the initiation. I said, really? The Greek alphabet, you say? Yes. So I went home. We had this Webster's dictionary, and in the front, they had, I think it was, of course, the American, alphabet, which is nice in the dictionary, and then the Greek. So I remember this alpha, beta, gamma, delta, went through this whole thing. And I remembered it, memorized it. So when I saw him, I don't know how much time later, I said, hey, Joey, got a match? He said, huh? I said, got a match? He said, yeah. So he gave me the match, and I went to the alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, kappa, blah, 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 blah. Sophia, anyway, went to the whole routine and blew out the match. And I thought, there we go. And then my friend in my class, Ralph, we were in Catholic school. He's a physician now. I showed him, I said, go to this book, learn this. Alpha we put for A, beta, gamma was G, D, whatever. But we used to send each other notes in what we thought was Greek. It was capital letters. We never really bothered with a lowercase. So one day, as I'm passing this stuff to him, sure enough, Sister Mary Agony, or whatever her name is, she says, let me see that. Are you passing notes? And I knew we got her this time. Let me see that. Sure, sister, here it is. And I'm looking at Ralph. I said, wait till she get a load of this. And there we are. She's reading. The expression, well, is Greek to me. So there we are passing notes to each other in what we thought was Greek. It wasn't really actually Greek, but it was using the Greek alphabet. And I thought, this is great. She didn't know what I was saying. Not only that, and this is the most important part, we both realized we got attention. You see, we were the ones, they said, were you really sending notes to each other in Greek? I said, well, it's not Greek, but it was. I said, yeah. We've never had that before. I said, And that's when I learned very early. It's like, why don't you try to impress people? Or put it this way, don't raise a stink. Don't cause a commotion. Do something to get the same amount of attention that somebody else tries to get by acting a fool, but do it differently. Have them appreciate your talent, if that makes any sense. Anyway, and then I went into radio and all that was shattered. Let's go to Matt in the Bronx. Matt, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel. Curious, have you ever heard of Dr. Kevin McDonald?
Dr. Kevin McDonald. I don't believe so. What does Dr. McDonald do?
Okay, he's actually, a retired professor of psychology at Cal State. He wrote a book. The Culture of Critique, and it basically goes into the origin of a lot of left-wing political movements that have tremendous.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor, Matt. I want to give you plenty of time. Put you on hold for just a second. I like this. I'm intrigued by this. After we take this much-needed interruption, we're going to return to Matt and we're going to discuss this. I like where this is going.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You see, Kevin Drosch, who is manning the boards, by the way, doing great since the fertilizer accident, continued success and recovery to you, my friend. But he remembered I mentioned Steve Miller. Take the money and run, and he played it back. See, goes to show you. It goes to show you that with perseverance and with enough occupational therapy, there is hope. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight, where let's go back to the phones. We had a very interesting, at least a intriguing, ostensibly, Matt in the Bronx. Matt, you were talking about a particular scholar by the name of MacDonald. And what is your point, good sir?
Right. Well, the reason why I mentioned Kevin MacDonald and his book, The Cultural Critique, there's a whole chapter in the book devoted to the origin of 1965 Immigration Act that completely changed and altered the demographic landscape of the United States under the Johnson administration. And the reason why I bring up the book and immigration in and of itself is in light of the recent slew of victories in the primaries here in New York City of Mayor Mamdani-backed candidates. Now, Mamdani, I want to remind you, is himself an immigrant, and these victories that were secured in the primaries could not have been secured without massive votes from people who were either immigrants themselves or descendants of immigrants. And one aspect of these radical socialists that were essentially elected to Congress, because they're not going to be facing any serious opposition in November. So pretty much one aspect of their agenda is an anti-Israel agenda, which has an undercurrent of anti-Semitism underlying it. Now, as you might suspect, a lot of Jewish groups are apoplectic that some of these candidates are so vociferous in their anti-Israel position. And it's a supreme irony, I believe, insofar as the groups like the ADL, the American Jewish Congress, the American Jewish Committee, on and on, and Jews are the demographic group in the United States themselves, way back in the 1960s, they were pro-immigration. They were instrumental in getting the laws overturned in 1965, which led to the demographic situation now that we have rising colonies of third world immigrants in our cities and in many of our jurisdictions.
Now let me stop you right there. This is a fascinating story, and one might listen to you and say that this is a tad, with all due respect, rather disjointed. Immigration versus illegal immigration. That's one distinction. And do you believe that immigration lends itself ultimately to what some consider to be either anti-Semitism or anti-religion? And so, therefore, your position is, isn't this ironic? Is that what you're saying? What is the thesis of your point, sir?
Yeah, it's ironic that, Jewish groups are alarmed at the consequences of the...
That being said, that irony noted, what do you suggest is the best way to approach this? Or is just merely an observation that you're making?
Oh, no, there is a solution. The solution is to gut the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, which opened the floodgates to third world immigration into the United States.
Now,
and it's
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
How do you stop? You're against third world immigration? Or
That's
immigration?
Correct.
Wait a minute. Third world immigration? How do you stop a third world immigration? For example, if you have fine people from, let's say, Europe or what have you, or certain acceptable parts of Asia, how do you define that by statute? How would you draft that? No third world. How would you say that exactly?
Well, prior to the 1965 Act, we had precisely that. We had something called the National Origin System. And that was designed to maintain the ethnic balance in the United States, which at that time was overwhelmingly majority European derived. And no one
so
one
you're
was
going to say,
about it.
Okay, let me ask you this. So you would think, if you had your way, irrespective of any kind of historic or statutory precedent, you would advocate a new immigration program that deals with European-centric immigration only. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And so far as you want immigrants who are most assimilable and who are going to contribute and not become burdens on the taxpayer, not going to become burdens on the criminal justice system.
Why would somebody from Europe, and by the way, Europe is what, 22, 25 different countries? I don't know how many there are. But anyway, but why would that guarantee assimilability versus somebody else? Are you recently, who was it, Megyn Kelly went off on Haitians. She was absolutely vituperative against Haitians. You do realize that some of the greatest people that we have been from people from all over the place. I mean, immigration is very, very tough for you to say, we're going to allow certain people. Maybe we should have certain religions. Maybe we should have also certain IQ levels. We should have minimal educational backgrounds. We should have also minimal health. We should make it very, very difficult. So we have almost like, dare I say, almost like a super, I don't want to say super race, that sounds terrible, or an uber mensch or anything along those lines, but kind of like a person who probably might be better than your average homegrown American. Matt, I thank you so much for your call. A fascinating point of view. I always like that. I always think there's a kernel of truth behind it, but please call me again, sir. I appreciate that. A most fascinating piece. Let's go to Cliff in West Sacramento. Cliff, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Cliff, are you there, Cliff?
Yes, can you hear me?
Do I fear you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Come in, Berlin.
Okay.
Come in, Berlin. Can you?
I want to say that I miss listening to you during the week. You and Lynn and your original call screener, Jerry. I miss you all, and I want to
Jerry.
Jerry.
Okay.
And I just want to say hello to the 83-year-old retired school teacher who called in last night.
That's not me, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay. So I called you in March of this year.
Now, Cliff, do me a favor, Cliff. I know you're a good man. I like that. Let's talk about now. Nobody remembers your call in March. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to pretend I did. I don't even remember March, much less your call. So what is on your mind tonight, sir, or this morning?
Well, I have 5 tips for your listeners on how to 5 tips on how to save money on their electric bill.
Oh no. Can you just give us the one major tip?
It all has to do with your refrigerator.
Okay. How is that, sir?
Okay. In the back of the freezer.
Oh, you've talked about this. You've called me before about the refrigerator tip.
Yes, I did.
And let me tell you something, Cliff. I thank you again. And let me tell you something. Out of concern for my listeners, that was so riveting and caused such a frisson of reactions, a Phillips, so to speak, that I don't want to risk that reaction again, because I remember people took to the streets out of a sense of freneticism over your admonitions. And I thank you, and I want you to call me again. But believe me, I'm open to a lot of things, my friends, and it's great. But refrigerator safety of power tips is not one of them. I respect you too much for that. Now, please, I'm not suggesting that's boring. Far be it from me to suggest that. I'm intimating it very strongly, but I'm not suggesting it. All right? At all. Okay? So refrigerator tips, not exactly compelling, but important nonetheless. Benny in Bayside, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Yes, hi. To save electricity on your refrigerator, unscrew the bulb. No, I'm joking. Anyways,
Benny, you have, can I just say something? You have a wit that is so raw, so natural, so almost patellar. It's frightening. Please don't ever abuse it. Use it sparingly. You have a talent, my friend. Proceed.
Well, the point I really wanted to make was back in the day, like when you had to come to America, if you had no paperwork or anything, you needed a sponsor back then. And the sponsor had to be a citizen of the United States, and it wasn't like somebody who was here for like a week or two. They had to have a job and pay rent or whatever, prove that they were a citizen.
Sure.
Why can't we go back to that? Meaning, like, if you want to come to the United States and you have no paperwork, I mean, again, you have to understand, we have people are coming in, they show you like paperwork, like, I work on this farm. Well, okay, where else did you work? This farm. Where'd you get paid? 3 meals a day, So there are many people coming into the United States that have zero paperwork, zero background check of any kind.
That's a very good point. Let me also give you something. Do you know the number of people, especially living in the great area, the great state of New York, or this particular area, and by the way, around the country, whose parents came in through Ellis Island, who absolutely, positively had nothing.
My goodness.
They had nothing. And using this wonderful theory of yours, and I appreciate this, but using your theory, they would have been rejected summarily. That they would have not have found founders or sponsors. Nobody knew them. People who didn't even have paperwork. People who couldn't read or write. They would just check for, eye diseases and basically. Now, I'm not suggesting that, but do you realize some of the greatest people in New York City alone? I mean, people who are wealthy beyond wealth, or who have contributed to the arts or scientists or business or just upstanding, great family people. Their forebears came here with nothing. Absolutely. And came here and worked hard and were a testament. Sometimes we talk about these third world people versus European. Well, there were some European Italians and there were some European Greeks or Spaniard, whatever, who had nothing. Who couldn't, who had the most minimal of talents, but look what they did. They had a spirit and a work ethic and a commitment to, and they loved this country. What about them? Half of them, according to these wonderful ideas, out in because they wouldn't have a sponsor. Okay, all righty. I love that sound. That dunk. That means they're off into the abyss. Let's go instead right now to a person by the name of Danny. Capital letters, please. I beg you. I beg like I've never begged. Capital letters. Danny, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Oh, hi, Lionel. I love your show. You are a fascinating individual. And
thank you, Danny.
I just love listening to your show. People should keep in mind, a lot of people who went to Ellis Island immigrating, they were sent back home for illness. Yeah. And some of the people who actually came here returned back home, too, after living here. That's never spoken about. And then they cut off the immigration, like in 1920s. They stopped it. But it was fascinating what happened. But today I think it's a lot more different because I think the federal government and the corporations are just really behind the whole thing, with China and Saudi Arabia, just to flood America with third worlders and not even determine who they are, what they came from. And there's a lot of scams with welfare and money.
Let me also explain. There's something else which is important. The prior administration, under what could only be described as a deliberate plan, ploy, stratagem, whatever you want to call it, deliberately wanted to perfuse and flood our American system with people and my favorite, unaccompanied minors, children who were brought in, most probably who ended up either in trafficking or dead under the Biden administration. Do you remember when I remember people in Jersey around these private airports would see these white planes come in, Westchester, Florida. They were pouring in. And we wonder, where are these people coming from? And that wasn't necessarily a bad system. That was a deliberate, again, kind of a perfusion, like you would inject just scores of humanity deliberately for reasons that we can guess. Was it the replacement theory? People say that's such a racist theory. I'm not so sure about that. To build a permanent Democratic majority? Is that it? All I know is there was no plan that was allowed. They were just allowed to just pour in. And then we got into this idea of trying to confuse immigration with illegal immigration. And then when the government tried their best to round people up, ICE I think they got a terrible, that was so, I don't want to say ill-conceived, but the PR or lack thereof, it was horrible. And there were some people who were abused. So I think we need to start from scratch. All I know is growing up, as far as I was, and I'm originally from Florida where we had Cubans in the Mariel boat lift in the 80s. We didn't have this, again, this flood, this tsunami of humanity. It changed. And I don't think it's necessarily legislation. I think it's people who want to change the demographics of our country, of our great country, and not with the finest people. Does that make any sense? By the way, Lenny, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. And
Lenny, where are your people? Let me ask something. What is your nationality? Where are your people from?
I'll give you the best description. They are white. They were European. I have a background with 4 different countries in Europe, and Christian. They were very Christian-like. But I just want to ask you a question, because I know you're Sicilian and you're proud of it, and you're also, I think, half Puerto Rican, you're proud of it. But the thing is, what is the obsession? This is because you're a great mind. What is the obsession with Fauci's name, Pelosi's name, and Luigi Mangione? Nobody remembers the guy who firebombed the 80-year-old woman in Denver, Colorado last year, Boulder, Colorado. Nobody remembers the guy who shot the National Guard woman, that beautiful girl, just before Thanksgiving. Nobody talks about that Crooks and that other guy, Ruoff, who went after Trump, and their backgrounds. You never hear their names. The guy who went after Trump 2 months ago at the correspondence dinner. Nobody knows his name anyway. But Fauci,
right, exactly.
Pelosi, and Luigi, they keep going after those names. Why is that? Because they hate Italians. Let's say the truth. So let's say the truth to everybody. They hate Italians.
Now, wait a minute. Let me ask you a question. You were telling me that the reason why Mangione, this man who gunned down an insurance executive in the streets of Manhattan, gunned him down, killed him, execution style, and now is the subject of this weird kind of like a Richard Ramirez, you kind of a night stalker, the passion these young women. You mean to tell me there's nothing independently newsworthy or interesting other than his Italian surname? And do you mean that fellow who could have basically killed, if you listen to a lot of people, Fauci? You're saying it's his Italian name, and Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, it's her Italian name, that's the subject of our fascination? Are you suggesting that?
Of course I am. Those are newsworthy. They're all newsworthy. But there's other people involved with Fauci, like Deborah Birx, doctor. She was with Trump in the White House. They never mentioned her name.
I think right. But you were saying, but did she testify as much? Was she as obnoxious as he was? There's a lot of people out there.
But that does not protect her from what went on during those years and the years before too. Let's face it, China is a multi-trillion-dollar country now, and they have their own labs. We funded their lab. Come on, they brought it here. China sent the virus here. You will never say it. You will never say that China sent the virus to America.
No. A lot of people are saying this. In fact, they called it the Wu flu. And they're also suggesting that Dr. Fauci was responsible for gain of function. That's right. Fauci, not Birx. Fauci. Now, listen, I appreciate Lenny. I want you to call me again. I'd love the fact, of course, there is sometimes anti-Italian or anti-whatever. You can get any group, and I swear to you, there's somebody who's going to be anti that person. But there's a lot of reasons to despise Fauci and Pelosi other than their Italian backgrounds. Lenny, I thank you so much. Please call me again, good sir. It's fascinating to hear how people what's the word? How they perceive things as such. Now, all I know is, very simply, there's something very, very different that's happening. And by the way, Lenny, let's get rid of that line there. It just haunts us. There we go. Get rid of that. Let's swoop that away. Come on, Drosh. There we go. That a baby. That a baby. Expurgate. There we go. Ablate. Baudelairize. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, I'm telling you right now. Let me tell you something. Fertilizer accidents, as Kevin could show, they're debilitating, and they can take a long time to work through with occupational treatment. But you know what? There is hope. There is hope. But there are so many people that are so despicable. But let me also tell you something. And this is what I was saying before, and nobody wanted to listen to me. When Mamdani came up, do you know what I love about this guy? I hate this guy. Oh my God. And the first time people meet him, they love him. He's a nice guy. What a smile. He's playing you like a chump. He knows with that stupid grin. He's a nice guy. He's engaging. I know a person who despises him. But the first time he can take a picture with him, oh my God, he said, this is a great guy. He's engaging. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Are you that easily swayed? But maybe you are. Here's the bottom line. I want to go out and I want to ask people, why do you like certain people? What is it that you're after? There is a schism, ladies and germs, a schism in the left and the right. Left and right, in my humble opinion, are changing. I don't want to say they're dead, but many, many people suggest that the left-right paradigm is over. Let's take the right, okay? You have a significant faction of the right. You've got people like Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, and you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you've got Massey, and you've got Joe Kent, and you've got others. And you can dismiss them all you want. You can say, it doesn't really matter. It matters. Because with them, they have millions of people that admire them. So that you have a little rift, a little split with the right. So be careful of that. Right is not as uniform as one would think. And then we talk about the left. This was very interesting. Mamdani came and said, I like these three people. And people out there go, there's no way these people have a chance. What, are you kidding me? This one says terrible things about defunding the police. This one's a lunatic. And everybody's a communist, by the way. Nobody knows yet can define what a communist is. It's a pejorative to them. They don't understand even communists. I've known one communist, and they say that's not what it is. However, so they came along. So Mamdani is, and by the way, his name can still not be pronounced by 90% of the population, but he's 3 for 3. It's a hat trick. He endorses these people, and lo and behold, they get in. So instead of trying to figure out why, and of course it's New York, and New York is different. They call it the commie corridor and all this kind of stuff. Always with the names, always with the pejoratives, but they're listening. And the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they don't want to listen. Because there's a whole new group of people who have different concerns now, but they dismiss that. It's ridiculous. This will pass. This is just a fad. Really? So the other day, you had Tish James. They sent Tish the dish out, and she went out excoriating these people. Why? They're not the left. They're not it. James Carville, who absolutely is worthless. I don't know what his function is, but he's also excoriating. These people are crazy. That's a good way. Keep it up, James. Split your party. Insult them. Make fun of them. That a baby. That's smart. So you have the left that is splintering and the right that is splintering. You're going to have a new configuration. And I've been telling you for the longest time, find out what people think. Let me give you an example. My wife and I know a young lady. She is absolutely probably one of the smartest, great head on her shoulders, hardworking, you would consider to be, a good family, ethics, religious, just great. She and her friends love Mom Donnie. And rather than yell at her, I said, that's fascinating. Why? She says, I like his energy. I like his commitment. I like his youth, his smile. Same thing they did with John Kennedy. John Kennedy was one of the biggest frauds anybody's ever seen. Most people knew nothing about. He was more of a Republican than anything else. He wasn't this leftist. It didn't matter. He was handsome. His wife was beautiful. And there was Camelot. And the only thing I can say is, let me just say this. Again, this is me personally speaking. Jack Schlossberg, the only thing I can say, out of all of the insanity that happens whenever we have any kind of an election, the very fact that this person was summarily drubbed means that maybe there is a God. Maybe there is a scintilla, a grain of common sense. This kid didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And it was the last gasp, the last vestige of the Kennedy name, even though it's Schlossberg, but the Kennedy aura, the Kennedy spirit, the way people, it's over. It's over. Now listen, don't get angry. Listen to what I'm saying. Recalibrate. Readjust. Don't give up the way you think. But if you want to win elections, you better first of all realize, why are people voting the way they do? And if you want to go after them, you can do one of two things. You can try to lure them to your side, or you can try to dissuade them from voting for those whom they care for. And if you're going to do it, the way we normally do it, when I say we, is to mock them, make fun of them, call them, it just, I think, do you think anybody's going to listen to this? What is your message? This is the most fascinating stuff. Let me just tell you something. I've been in the talk radio business, technically, professionally, for 38 years. I have never I've seen revolutions. I remember when Rush came along. Oh my God, it was absolutely incredible. It was clearly demarcated of conservative and Republican and GOP. I remember when the contract with America and Newt Gingrich was strong, and then Clinton. What we're seeing right now is the complete and total elimination of those labels, those rubrics that we loved, that we're so familiar with. To voters of today, they don't know what that means. So the left and the right, they're both disintegrating. There's a new party coming, and that's the one I have my eyes on. Our number is 800-848-9222. More coming up on Another Side of Midnight with me, Lionel.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I love this song. The lyrics are so deep. That's right, the great John Lee Hooker. I love to have John Lee Hooker have his speaking style taught to people moving into our country from elsewhere, so that this would be their first view of this. By the way, speaking of which, have you, Jackson or Kevin, have you seen any of the new Chinese cars, BYD, and these others, the Yang Wang U9 Extreme? Have you seen these? Have you seen Chinese design?
No.
Oh my God. I know we're not supposed to like these folks, but let me tell you something. It is incredible. Somebody told me years ago, remember, was it Huawei? The Chinese phone. People said, don't get that. The Chinese are going to hear us and listen to us. Okay. But so a friend of mine had one. He said, if you ever get one, you will never look at an Apple or the design is incredible. So watch what's happening right now. I just want you to understand, you're going to see things that nobody has ever seen. I mean this. I mean this. You are seeing the development of a new form of how do I say this? Politics. You have a new group of people. You have Palantir, OpenAI, the Altmans, these are the strangest people I have ever seen in my life. You remember when you had like an Austin Powers movie, so to speak, the evil person. Remember on Hawaii Five-O they had Wo Fat. He was the evil guy. And then remember the Wild Wild West, Miguelito Loveless, Michael Dunn, the midget. He was the bad guy. There's always the bad guy. They were weird, and they would pet a cat, or their hair was. You can't get weirder than this AI group, period. Elon Musk is the most normal of them all. Think about what I'm telling you. And these people have no conception of humanity. None. They don't care about anything. War, death, destruction, the elimination of the humankind. They feel imbued by some kind of an AI god that enables them to do things. And you mere mortals better get out of the way. And one of the things which I fear, because I personally like President Trump, personally, I think I would like him. But whoever is advising him, whoever is guarding the door, is not doing a very good job. These people are going to turn on the president and us. They have no affiliation with anybody. Period. They have no affiliation. Let me just remind you of something very quickly. I still haven't heard anybody explain to you what AGI is, artificial general intelligence. These are advanced models that can turn things on and off at will. These are things that will have their own sense of presence, their own sense of morality, their own sense of right and wrong, their own, whatever you want to call it. We're not talking Chat GPT. We're talking about all of a sudden in the middle of a war, let's say a weapon system just shuts down. Or let's assume that just during the course of something is rerouted. A phone system. Why? Because let's say some AGI system independently doesn't like what you're doing, thinks it's wrong. Oh, we haven't even approached that yet. The final hour coming up, my friend, on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel, who reminds you, boom, 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 boom.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Howdy, let me try this again in English. Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. This is hour number 3 of this thing of ours. So glad to see you, by the way. Just want to give a hearty hello and hi-os over and just a rousing round of support to our good friend Kevin Drosch, who's working the boards today. You know, Kevin has an interesting past. In the late 80s, he was taken into custody by authorities for making lewd noises when they changed a mannequin at Macy's. It's a long story. It happened then. This is the guy who thought Vito Powers was an Italian spy pilot. 3 people understand that joke, but that's okay. I'm used to it. It happens. It happens. But it always goes to show you that, listen, kids, when they tell you can't do something, when they tell you that you're unable, that you don't have the ability, they're probably right. But the point is, every now and then, you can prove them wrong. That's all I want to say. Inspiration is the name of the game. Now, I got to tell you something which I wanted to bring up right away. This annoys me to just no end. I swear to you, it just annoys me. If the existence of non-human intelligence would be, as I believe, the biggest discovery in human history, why is discussion of UAP still treated as entertainment rather than science? I mean, do you think cancer breakthroughs are on Entertainment Tonight Or would Andy Cohen have a special on cancer treatment? No. Why are reports from military pilots, often with gun turret photos or Navy personnel, why is it met with jokes when those same pilots are trusted with billion-dollar aircraft and national security missions? We laugh at them. Why does the term UFO immediately trigger ridicule, while unidentified aerial phenomenon, which I hate, receives kind of more serious treatment, maybe, despite describing essentially the same thing? Why do we change the names of these things? It's like all of a sudden it was Peking became Beijing. Remember, Qatar became gutter, and then Qatar, and then Qatar. And look how we spelled the name. Mao Zedong, Mao Zedong. Turkey, Erdogan's Turkey is now Turkey, which is the way they say it. But all of a sudden we get that one right. All of a sudden, it's cool to say that. Gaddafi. Ask yourself, how many ways can you spell Gaddafi? With a G, a Q, a K? Anyway, all of a sudden, UFOs are now UAPs. And how much of the stigma, I guess, that surround UAPs, how much of this was created by popular culture rather than evidence? I don't get it. I'm not done yet. Why does society confuse investigating a possibility with endorsing a conclusion? Why is there no critical thinking? Why do we laugh at this? Why? It's the same thing when you talk about, they say, by the way, you always hear this, in all the various trade magazines and trade provisions. In the world of podcasting, the number one format is true crime. Really? True crime. You know what the best true crime story is right now? In my day, it was OJ. You know what the best one is now? Tyler Robinson. He didn't do anything. And you cannot believe this. During the OJ case, this is a subject, a different subject, sort of. During the OJ case, I remember on a Friday night when I think I was kind of brand new at the old ABC. This is 93, 94, whatever it was. It was a Friday night, and I happened to have on a Knicks game. I never watched the Knicks, never. But it was, I don't know what it was. And all of a sudden, they broke in with a slow speed chase. And I thought, what the hell is this? First of all, it was the greatest oxymoron, a slow speed chase. And I said, who is that? I said, it's O.J. Simpson. Really? Yeah. Well, who's that guy driving? That's Al Cowling. What happened? Well, he's in the back of a Ford Bronco. He's got $10,000 in cash. He's got a fake mustache, a suicide note, and a 357. And I said, he killed this woman. He's getting
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, my friends. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel, 800-848-9222. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? Let's go back to the phones and back to the fun. Let's go to Paul in Connecticut. Paul, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Morning, Lionel.
Good morning, sir.
A possible conspiracy that's going to be happening, I think, that the Chinese are going to be taking blood samples of the Ebola virus people over in the Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and possibly using it for experiments in China. And also, I'm afraid that this virus is leaving Africa now, and it's in France with one case there because of sick people traveling.
I remember like it was yesterday, there was a book called Hot Zone. There was a movie with Dustin Hoffman, as you may recall. And I was on WABC, and we talked to the author of the book, Hot Zone. And he talked about Ebola Zaire. And this is a hemorrhagic virus that completely liquefied or removed any kind of clotting factors. You bled through your eyes, through nipples. It was the most horrible thing anybody has ever seen. Then there was another version called Ebola Reston from this Virginia. This is a non-lethal version of it. This has been around. Remember when bird flu was big? Remember when monkeypox was big? Remember when it's used in my... Well, let me ask you, rather than me make the statement of fact, do you think sometimes we are having fear used as a vector, as kind of a weapon against us? Do you think they love to always keep us on edge? Do you think there's anything to that? Not that there's truth. Of course, there is Ebola. But what do you think is behind this, Paul?
The masses, but also the people it's coming from people eating bats. But then when it goes to the possibly being used as a biological weapon, then it is something for people
Wait a minute. Are we doing, excuse me, more of the bats? This sounds like, you remember the Pangolls? Remember the Chinese wet markets? Are you noticing a repetition of things here? Have you noticed this?
Yes. I'd like to get a side order of bat wings at Chinatown if possible.
No, but I mean, I'm serious about this. Do you see that there is this notion of always this exotic? See, this is the part. It appears to have originated as an animal virus. This is called zoonotic. This is where we share. And it started in Central Africa and West Africa and occasionally spills over into humans. And the leading...
They're eating monkeys and bats.
No, we're doing... That goes back to the AIDS. AIDS, there's monkeys, bats... But let me explain to you, if you'd like me to explain this to you. The leading scientific theory is that certain species of African fruit bats act as the natural reservoir, carrying the virus without becoming seriously ill themselves. Humans may become infected through contact with infected wildlife, including bats or other animals that become infected from the bats. And the virus, interestingly, was first identified in 1976. During simultaneous outbreaks. Let me do this. Let me put you on hold for a second, because I wonder, this is a fascinating subject. Let me remind you, you're listening right now to The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
All right, my friends. I love the notion of disease, where it comes from, how it came. Remember during the notion of AIDS. AIDS came from the African green monkey. And then that came from people having pardon my, it was a family show, but people took that as to having sex with monkeys. Like, no, that's not where it came from. But a little bit about this. This is fascinating. The virus was first identified in 1976. My high school graduation year, by the way. During simultaneous outbreaks of what are now the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan. And the disease was named after the Ebola River, which was near one of the original outbreak locations. Now remember, they were getting very upset when they said Wuhan, the Wuhan. They said, "Quote, bring up Wuhan, that's racist, it's Chinese. You can't associate a place with the disease." Well, what about, Lyme disease, Lyme, Connecticut, Ebola, German measles? It went on and on and on. Scientists strongly suspect that fruit bats are the primary reservoir, but an important scientific detail remains. After nearly 50 years of study, the definitive natural host has not been conclusively proven. You see, bats remain the leading candidate because they can carry Ebola genetic material and antibodies without showing illness. But researchers continue to investigate whether other species may also play a role. And once Ebola enters humans, it spreads through direct contact with blood or other bodily fluids of an infected person rather than through the air, like influenza or measles. So with Ebola, one would suggest that in that particular case, wearing a mask is not going to help. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen. And I say that, of course, with all due respect. People will be so frightened of Ebola, and they should be. Remember, we've been through H1N1, COVID, SARS-CoV-2, monkeypox. What else did we do? Monkeypox. The latest, I forget. And then we go through a few of these, and then we kind of forget, and then we move on. Things just go away. Remember all the problems we had with air traffic control? What happened? It just went away. What about the drones in New Jersey? It just went away. They're just here for a couple of days, and they just go away. So pretty soon we're not going to be talking about Ebola anymore. We're just not going to be. It's going to be the next thing. But what's interesting to me, which I find fascinating, is we have to teach people how to become an autodidact, how to be self-taught, to learn this. How do you get to the bottom of this? How do you find out more about this? And all of this information is right there. Paul in Connecticut. Paul, I think we were talking to you. Paul, your final comments regarding this scourge, is this something that you think about, that you worry about actively? Are you concerned?
It's a concern. I'm glad I have my basic needs met, like a place to live and some money to get groceries, and try not to drink too much. But besides that, it is a concern, but I don't want to dwell on it.
Well, Paul, I thank you so much. Please call me again. Don't drink. Of course, having a place to live has nothing to do with you not getting Ebola, but it's good. I understand. You know what? It's a start. Let me see this. Let's go to Mike in Brooklyn. Mike, you're on another side of another side of midnight with Lionel.
One of those sides. Good morning, Lionel. My question or comment is, in Brooklyn, we have rabies we have to worry about. Two people have been attacked by raccoons within this month, right here in Brooklyn. And the skunks that are in the neighborhood, one of them tested positive for rabies, and the other one was mine was inconclusive.
Any idea of skunk attacks?
Baby
Are you there, Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, now, what are the local officials saying about this? And is this a source of concern for you, sir?
Yes, absolutely. I'm one of the people that got attacked. The raccoon, thank God my dog was with me. The dog took on the raccoon and killed it. It was a 25-pound raccoon. I'm visually impaired. I didn't even know it was a raccoon. I didn't even know what it was. It attacked me, and my dog just happened to be right next to me, and the garbage cans and everything were flying, and I was running the other way. After the scuffle, I found out it was a raccoon, and that one tested negative for rabies.
Okay.
But the skunk that bit me in September of last year, that one wasn't tested. The animal care wouldn't do nothing. And the one that I came in contact with June 5th, I went to pick it up because it was in the yard, and the dog was barking at it and everything, and found that it was dead in the yard. When I picked it up, it slipped and went right into my hand.
Hang on a second. Stop for a second. Stop for 1 second. The skunk attacked you when? When was this?
Okay, the skunk attack, the first one, the skunk attack was September of last year.
Okay, now, let me stop you right there.
That's the one
I don't
that
know.
bit me on my foot.
Okay, I don't know, and it was not tested. I don't know about rabies, but I think the incubation time is probably not 9 months. I think you're probably clear. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how long it takes.
The Department of Health, I was under the same pressure too, because I don't know much about it, but I'm finding more information as I go.
Yes.
The Department of Health says that thing, the rabies can lay dormant in you for 7 years and then hit you like a freight train. That's what the Department of Health was telling me. And it says the skunk in the yard here. That one was inconclusive, but within the last week, they found another rabid raccoon 200 feet from my house.
Now, let me ask you this. Stop for 1 second. In a very brief cursory check on my point, it says rabies has one of the most variable incubation periods of any infectious disease. First, typical incubation period 1 to 3 months. Possible range a few days to more than a year. And most common range is 20 to 90 days. So the biggest factor is usually the location of the exposure, because the virus travels through nerves toward the brain. Bites closer to the head or the face or the neck generally result in shorter incubation periods than bites on the legs or the feet. So you probably, I don't know. I think you should perhaps, do you have a primary care physician? Have you talked to somebody that cares for you?
I had, but I haven't been going to them, so I have to go back to them, that's for sure. But
now let me explain to you something. And I love you to death, all right? I love you because you're like a brother to me, and I love you. But what the hell is the matter with you? I would be on the phone. I'd be in front of that doctor's office. I'm saying, I got hit. I've been attacked by skunks, raccoons. Apparently the word is out that I'm an easy mark. What am I looking for, doctor? What are my symptoms? Do I have anything to worry about? I promise you, if I got attacked by a skunk with rabies, you would not ever hear me say, I don't know. I would know exactly. So I'm just telling you as a human being, forget the Department of Health. Get somebody to definitively answer this question. You probably are okay. I'm just saying, as a layman. But how is it that you have been coming into contact with skunks? You're in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
How were you attacked by skunks, raccoons? You know, every now and then, do you remember when they have, like, for example, the wolf, the coyote? Every now and then in Central Park, this coyote shows up from, I don't know where the hell it's from, and then it goes away. There's the lone coyote, and then it goes away. What kind of a luck do you have? Were you born under some star, some sign that says, let's make sure Mike attracts, rabid vermin? This is fascinating.
Age. My birthday is the 4th of July, so I'm trying to make it to that.
Well, listen, Mike, I tell you,
there was a girl attacked by a raccoon 2 weeks ago, right around the corner from here. Yeah.
What is this, like Raccoon Central?
This neighborhood is overrun by raccoons. And
really?
It seems to me that they're starting to become a little on the aggressive side now.
Yes. Have you called Mayor Mamdani and said, now listen, I know you're busy with these socialist candidates, but I'm over here being attacked by rabid, raccoons. You got to do something about this. This is incredible.
I called the city councilwoman, but she wasn't in the office. The one I wanted to talk to wasn't in the office. But
please,
it's
listen, Mike, you call me again, my friend. Thank you so much, and and happy birthday in advance, dear friend. Can you believe this? Raccoon attacks? This is something. Mike, I thank you very much. Let's go to Benny in Bayside. Benny, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, the skunk attack was the best. Mike, you have to.
I don't know what you just said. What did you say?
Mike, as far as Mike, the past caller, he has to look for purple polyps on his behind. If he has purple bumps on his behind.
Stop for a second.
Means he was attacked by a skunk. Are you
Wait
kidding
a minute.
me? I'm
Why on his
joking?
Right. This is a very serious subject, Benny. It's very serious.
There are really
now. What's on your mind, Benny?
Here in Queens and Brooklyn, there really are.
Okay.
And my neighbor asked
Benny,
me one time, was like, "Yes, sir."
Benny, I'm just curious. The purpose of your call, sir? I don't think it was skunks.
I know it wasn't. It was to tell you that Lynn, I love what Lynn stands for, your wife.
Absolutely.
And she runs on like 3 Red Bulls at 2:00 in the morning.
Yes.
And she's going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then there's you going to like 50, and then all of a sudden you jam it in reverse with your ADD. What do you think about this? And I just absolutely love the two of you, really do.
Benny, do me a favor.
Yes,
Favor.
sir.
Explain to me how I throw it into reverse with my ADD. What does that mean?
No, you have attention deficit disorder. Definitely, no doubt.
Why do you say that?
Because all of a sudden you'll be talking about a subject and then you'll just, let me ask you about this. Let me ask you about that. Wait a minute.
Let me ask you a question.
There you go.
If a person has, let me ask you a question about what you're just saying. If a person has a multiplicity of questions, if there are many questions that are inspired by an issue, like you would be talking in a conversation, why is that attention deficit? Why not a super acuity to the subject that I'm talking about? What if a subject so inspires me, it makes me ask other questions? Maybe, and I ask this with all due respect, maybe I'm not the problem. Maybe you can't follow. Just a thought, Benny. Just maybe a thought.
Trust me, we are both exactly right there with ADD.
No, you haven't said this. This is not ADD. This is not attention deficit. This is the ability to see many issues regarding a subject. You do understand the difference, correct?
I do, absolutely. But you go on a subject on one projective, and then all of a sudden you make a left turn, which I love.
No, but I'm saying
I love it. I love it.
I think the projective that you say that I'm on being changed, it's because the subject changes or a nuance change. I'm just saying, with all due respect,
your brain
changed. It might be you, my friend. Benny, I thank you so much. Have a nice day, sir. Please call me again. How about that, Kevin? You got that? You got that hint? You got that tag? When I say, thank you very much, have a nice day. You know what I mean? That's like, I'm just saying, one of my, I don't want to say pet peeves, but one of the things which I find interesting is that when you talk about a subject, any subject, there is automatically 10 at least derivative subjects within that subject, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. Take rabies. What is it? How common is it? Is it rare that it happens in Brooklyn? What are the symptoms? What would you do if you contracted this? Remember, you heard these terrible shots. When I was a kid, they said they give you these painful injections in the abdomen. And okay, I just gave you 10 questions roughly that are subsumed under the rubric, under the issue of rabies. That's not ADD. That's not changing subject. It's not going left and right. I'm just saying. Maybe it's me. Let's go to Frankie in New York. Frankie, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, we really got a problem with the skunks. Last night, I almost got attacked by 5 of them, taking the garbage out. Yep.
5?
I'm kidding you not.
Wait.
5.
Where did this happen,
5.
Sir?
The mama, the papa, and 3 little ones.
Where did this happen, sir?
In my backyard.
Okay, where is your backyard?
In Glendale.
Okay. So take me through this. You were taking your garbage out.
Yes.
And how did they confront you? Do they growl? Do they make a noise? What happened?
Well, they came up the stairs from the other backyard, and I said, oh, man. I thought it was a cat first. So then I saw the white stripe, and I said, nope, those are not cats. So I was going to take a photograph because it was so strange, till the mama turned around and lifted its back tail, and then I backed up because, that's it. But it's like New York is turning into Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom here. We got the raccoons. Yeah.
How do you know it was the mother?
because it was the bigger one. And there was another larger one, and then there was like three of them following.
And you can tell. And it lifted its tail, indicating it was about to spray you, but didn't.
I didn't know, because I saw that thing turn around, lift the tail up, and I backed up quick.
No, I understand that. That's what I said. It lifted its tail, but didn't. It did not.
No.
Excellent. And did you call anybody about this? Has this ever happened before?
No, this is the first time.
Why wouldn't you call the authorities to let them know you're being attacked or swarmed by skunks?
See, if you think they're going to come for a skunk when they don't come when your car's getting its tires taken off, come on.
You don't think that it's worth it? Okay, Frank, I thank you, my friend. Have a good day. Thank you. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm just... thank you, sir. I would be immediately, for whatever it's worth, letting someone know. And let me also tell you something. I'm a firm believer in emailing. We stopped emailing. I don't know why. We just stopped doing this. Everybody wants to text now. Can I text you this? No, I don't want you to text me anything. Send an email. And if you were to send something to a division, to a part of the government that handles it, whatever vermin control is, they have that email. It's different. It's hard to lose it. By the way, the same thing goes when you petition Congress. The best, believe it or not, are phone calls, because after X amount of, my wife will tell you, after X amount of phone calls, they have to report it. But believe it or not, emailing is critical. Most people don't do this. I'm very surprised at that. Let's go to Sean in Brooklyn. Sean, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, I'm loving the show. They should put Bobby Kennedy as in charge of the New York City Parks Department from hearing all these people. But a lot of it is coming from Westchester County because so much housing was built there, and a lot of their areas were, destroyed. So the deer come down, the possum come down, raccoons.
Let me ask you a question. Back to what you said. Why should Bobby Kennedy be in charge of this?
Because we always used to hear, like you said, oh, there was a wolf in Central Park, and we know Bobby Kennedy brought a bear carcass down to Central Park, and now he laughs about it. He put a bicycle next to it. I mean, should we really have him dealing with the red dye number 1 and red dye number 2 with that background, with that resume? But anyway,
well, remember,
yes.
But also, Bobby has been picking up a lot of snakes, and didn't he do something somewhat obscene, almost with a porcupine or not porcupine, some other type of thing? Speaking of Bobby Kennedy, here's my question to you: what exactly has he done? I mean, other than red dye and introducing beef tallow, the idea of frying French fries in beef fat, this is better for you. This is better for your atherosclerotic prevention. Beef tallow. Other than that, what has he done? Just curious.
Well, I could tell you a few things. First, let me give you a little bit of a lighter note there. Bobby Kennedy Jr., would wear Groucho glasses and go into White Castles. Okay, so these guys with this background and everything. I mean, I think he's a little bit older than you. I mean, he looks.
How do you know he wears Groucho glasses in a White Castle?
Well, it's just kind of a joke because I don't believe these guys who say, "Oh, don't eat this, don't eat that." He probably eats Captain Crunch for breakfast. Come on. I mean, these guys, at his age, the way he's built, I'm not taking anything away from him. He's had a life. He's had an easy life and a hard life because of certain things that went on. But the thing is, at that age, I mean, come on. You're not going to be built like that. I mean, if he is, I'll throw him a big compliment. But a lot of times these guys...
What are you getting at? What are you getting at?
I'm getting at that... Well, you said, well, what has he done? I've already said it.
Hang on a second. You think I'm all over the place. Let's talk about you. Let's go with your first observation. You said he's like 71, 70, whatever he is. He's in the 70s, at least. What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting he takes some types of performance enhancement drugs, steroids, male hormones, testosterone? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying a guy at that age, very difficult to be built the way he's built. He's a pretty big, solid,
therefore,
guy. He's like a linebacker. All right, but the thing
work with me on this, Sean. Don't move. Don't veer from this. Work with me on this. It's very rare to be built like that at his age. Therefore, what? Why is he built like that at his age? Don't tell me because he works out. That doesn't matter. What are you suggesting?
Well, I will suggest, because I know a lot of men in that age group who do use testosterone to increase their testosterone because it goes down. The levels at that age usually go down, right? Human growth hormone. By
the way, most of that is mythical. Most of it is the idea of it being so low that you have to have supplementation. Not a good thing. Hey, Sean, I thank you so much. Please call me again. We were going nowhere with that. Let me explain a couple of things to you. And this is just me as a how do I say this? As just a lay person. Men, I remember one time I have a physician friend. I said, what's the story about low T? He said, do you shave? I said, yes. Have you lost your beard? I said, no. He goes, you're fine. I said, okay. That's interesting. I never thought about that. Number two, there are some little dormant, how do I say this? Some prostate cancers that are just sitting back dormant. They say that most people, if you looked at most men who died, if you lived a regular life and died of natural causes in their 70s or 80s or whatever, if you were to take biopsies of them post-mortem, you would find pre-cancers, prostate pre-cancer, that after a period of time, prostate cancer, it's very slow in some cases, but that you're invariably going to have that. If you live to be 150, you're going to get prostate cancer. It's just a matter of time. It's just one of those things. That's why one of the reasons where, for example, if you have prostate cancer, one of the treatments is an orchiectomy or castration to stop the feeding of testosterone. Why am I saying this? Let's say there's a little dormant cancer somewhere in your body, a man, prostate, just laying back, figures, you know what? I'm not going to really develop, whatever. Then all of a sudden, here you come along with these blasts of organs, of testosterone and human growth hormone. And wait a minute, hold it. Wait, I may have a resurgence. Wait a minute, I'm feeling invigorated. It's the little cancer that could. It's just like when we eat meat with all of these hormones in them. Why do you think little girls are developing breasts and having secondary sex characteristics and menarche and menstruation? Why do you think they're happening so early? Why? What do you think the reason for this is? It's a very scary thing. There's just some. So what I'm saying is be very, very careful. And there's a lot of folks too, and I hate to say this to you, but a lot of men who don't understand that, when you're getting older, you're not going to be able, you're not 20 years old anymore. Now, this may come as a shock to you. But I have never seen so many people like Pete Hegseth, Robert Kennedy Jr. They want to do pull-ups and push-ups. Look, I can do pull-ups. Can you imagine General Patton doing that? No. Can you imagine George C. Marshall doing? No. They would say, I'm not going to do a pull-up at all. The saddest thing I saw the other day, was poor Kash Patel. Bless his heart, he's got the country music singer girlfriend. And Kash Patel went to a party, okay? Went to a party for, I think it was FBI family members. And do you know he walked in and he had his FBI badge on his belt? The director of the FBI, he's like a little boy who likes badges and raid jackets. Can you imagine J. Edgar Hoover with a badge? I one time talked to the great Ray Kelly perhaps the greatest police commissioner we've ever had. And we were talking, and he said, I don't know how the subject came up, but he said, "Yeah, I've got a badge. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt's badge." He said, "Do you carry a badge?" He says, "No, I don't think so." He said, "Why?" He says, "I'm the commissioner. You don't know who I am?" It's like he didn't need to do that. He's been a cop his whole life. He doesn't. It's like he doesn't have to turn the lights on and wear raid jackets. It's very interesting. So what I'm trying to say is some people love the accoutrement, so to speak, of youth and masculinity and, badges and look at me, I'm a man. And what I'm saying is, please work out. Please exercise. Stretching is incredible. But men and ladies, remember, age is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Because the alternative to aging is, well, I don't want to talk about this. But be very careful when you try to push things. Don't tamper with things. You're not going to be, when you see a guy who's 70 years old and he has thick veined vasculature in his bicep, ooh, that is not a good thing at all. That's all I'm saying. 800-848-9222. When we return from this interruption, a very good interruption, a bit of a break, we're going to finish up with as many calls as possible as we complete this session of Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All righty, Lionel with you. 25 or 6 to 4. Actually, that song envisions 25 or 26 minutes to 4 in the morning, which we should have played at that time, which would have made a little bit more sense. But who cares? Life's like that. You go with the flow. 800-848-9222. Let's go back to the phones. Back to the phone. Let's go to Mike in South Carolina. Mike, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel. I love it. 25 or 6 to 4, Chicago. You know how when I played the drums to that song, I had to shake my hands out for like 2 minutes. Forget it. Up tempo. You know what, Lionel? Interesting subjects you have, of course. How about the Kennedys? How about those Kennedys? Here's what I think about the Kennedys. Okay, John F. Kennedy's father, Joe, was a bootlegger. Okay? I was 9 years old when he was assassinated in 1963, and this and that. And look at the whole family. They're sort of dysfunctional. And I think, in all reality, the Kennedy family, they should put a bridge up in Massachusetts, and they should name it Ted the Swimmer Kennedy. Ted the Swimmer Kennedy. I think her name, Mary Jo Kopechne, that's who it was, 1969. Right. But anyway, you have so many varied subjects. Well, as do you. Well, let's go back a couple of things. Joe Kennedy was a bootlegger, to be sure, but he really made his money in Hollywood. He really made his money in stock. He was a SEC chairman. The bootlegger was initial. That was what he did maybe initially. That really wasn't how he made his. That was kind of overdone. He was probably anybody who lobotomizes his daughter and doesn't even tell his family about it. Anybody who has an affair with Gloria Swanson and brings her to the family breakfast table in front of his kids. This was a weird group of folks. Period. Weird group of folks, and I remember reading about Gloria Swanson. Yeah, Papa Joe, he was very eclectic. Let's put it that way. Oh my God. Well, also he was the one who initially he was canned by FDR because he was a tad of an isolationist. If his ideas did not necessarily work. Interestingly enough, John Kennedy was really not meant to be the star. It was Joseph, the eldest brother. And when Joe Kennedy, the brother, found out that John Kennedy had became famous during the PT 109 event and then Profiles in Courage, he was so upset. This is what they say. That Joe went upstairs and cried or whatever. And that's when he hatched this cockamamie plan to fly this bomber that's loaded with explosives and then parachute out to try to gain fame. And it did not work. I mean, it was a really
strange group. And let me tell you something. New York dodged a bullet because of that Jack Schlossberg, who has no business getting anywhere. He's never worked a day in his life. I don't think he knows what I'm just going to leave it at that. That's a very interesting young man. Thank God. All right, my friend. Micah, thank you. Please call me again. Have a great day. Let's go to Johnny in New Jersey. Johnny, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. I think we lost Johnny. What are you going to say? 800-848-9222. You know what we haven't had in a long time is the person who's sleeping. We used to sometimes get somebody who was just snoring right in the middle. I mean, it happened on a number of occasions, which is a great ego booster. You know, people snoring. I will tell you, my friends, one of the things which is a fascinating subject. I do not know why. I think the Kennedy family obviously has had so much tragedy. I mean, seriously. I don't know. You don't need me to tell you that. And the question that I asked one time I interviewed, I believe Kathleen, who I believe is the eldest of I think she's the eldest of Bobby's children. And Bobby's the eldest male. He's the scion, the dauphin, so to speak, Delfino. But the scion, so to speak. But I think she's the eldest. And I asked a question years ago. I said, before we start, I said, how many actual Kennedys are there, including children, spouses, children of the people, grandchildren, maybe even great-grandchildren? And I didn't even want to get into cousins. Well, cousins, I guess that's derivative. What is the official number? 200, 300? She says, I don't know. In any event, my friends, let me tell you something. Mr. Drosh, you were incredible. How you were able to move the buttons tonight with those specially crafted therapeutic mittens, I will never know. Thank you for your attention to detail and your focus. Jackson, thank you for your incredible work as well. My friends, we will see you again tomorrow on Another Side of Midnight. Remember, you can follow me on YouTube at Lionel a Nation. Have a wonderful evening. We love you. Don't forget, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel on the Red Apple Podcast Network.